afternoon and welcome to another edition of the Daily Deuce. I'm Gary Graves from just outside Louisville, Kentucky, and in Maryland, my good friend John Webster, esteemed colleague and a basketball expert, Notre Dame fan, and all that stuff. How you doing, John?
Gary, I'm doing real good, man. I'm always going to be Notre Dame, but they're a little disappointing. But I'm always going to be Notre Dame. Glad to be
Yeah,
on here today. Hope everybody's doing well. John Pitt, I hope you're doing well. We can't do it without you. But also today, Gary, we got a special guest, our dear friend, AP Steadham. AP, how you doing?
Hey, what's going? We're rocking and rolling. John and Gary. How y'all?
all
We're doing
right, all
great,
right.
man.
Yeah, I
Doing
love those
great.
initials, man. That's who I work for.
Me too. I love it. Yeah, people don't forget it, right, John? Right, Gary?
Yeah, yeah. Well, we've had a heck of a week with college football and NFL. We could talk about all the last minute games decided by field goals in the NFL, but we'll get to that. But let's talk about college football. Okay, where do we start? Um, Michigan. Before the end of this week, we may or may not know whether the schools fight against the suspension for John Harbaugh for the final three games is going to hold up or not. He already missed the game last weekend. They play Maryland on Saturday before they close against the Ohio State University. And we go into another day where the college football rankings will be decided. And the question that I've been hearing, AP, is about whether Michigan should even be considered for the
Right.
college football playoffs. What's your take on that?
Yeah, well, I know the committee does not have jurisdiction, so they're just ranking the teams. And until someone tells them that a team is not eligible, the responsibility is to rank all the teams. So my feeling is just keep ranking Michigan, and that's somebody else's jurisdiction, and they'll make the decision soon, probably.
Yeah, I go along with that. I mean, I'm an Ohio State fan, but I
Yes,
feel like that shouldn't even be the Big Ten's jurisdiction right now. And not because, the possibility of having two teams in the playoff,
right,
looms. It's just well, I have my feelings about this whole thing because
right.
those of us that have been following any kind of sport for a long time know that stealing signs is part of it. I mean, it's
Common.
it's
Yes,
part of trying to get a competitive edge.
yes,
And a lot of it depends, of course, on to what lengths you go to. And we've made a whole
right,
lot, me and John and I, about the Houston Astros a few years ago. That
right,
that might have been an extreme circumstance, but what
right,
Michigan, and this is solely my opinion, AP, what
right.
Michigan does is what every other team does, college, pro, high
Yep.
school.
Yeah. I'm thinking, would they keep someone out of the Super Bowl if this happened, or just suspend the coach for a couple of games? I don't think I'd keep them out of the competition because you're penalizing the players in the university as well. But they're going to have to come up with some way to attach it to Jim Harbaugh. I don't know if that can be done. I mean, maybe it's an overzealot assistant. We see that he has that personality, and they had to let him go and fire him and move on. So that they did the best they could with when they found out. Now, how someone's going to attach it to Jim Harbaugh, I don't know.
And neither do I. It's you know everybody is screaming for for something to happen with this, and
Right,
I don't want to say it's a tempest in a teapot or anything like
right,
that. It there's something, but I don't know if it's as much as people want to make it out to be. That's just my opinion. And
yeah,
again, if you're it's like in baseball, teams know that opponents are trying to
yeah,
steal their signs. I mean, I was a catcher. I know, that was the reason why
right.
I had to hide it with my glove because they didn't want me tipping off pitches or anything else like
No,
that. And if you watch any game nowadays, whether it's football or
yes,
baseball, that you see this in front of their
all,
faces
all the
because you
time.
got lip readers in the stands
Right, all
with
the time.
binoculars.
Right. And they have the placards and things and trying to confuse people. So yeah, I think if you suspended them a game or two, that would suffice for me personally. But some people they want to throw the rocks at the glass house. I don't know.
Yeah,
And
exactly.
you know the old saying, guys, even if you know the play, you still got to stop it.
Hey, right.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, you have to stop Green Bay, Packers way back, Vince Lombardi, and they had
Yeah.
that sweep. I
You
mean, power
you
sweep,
knew
and that was
Paul
it.
Horning, you knew
Yeah,
Paul Horning was coming around that end. You
right.
Mhm.
had to stop it. You knew John Riggins was coming up the gut. You still had to stop it.
Yeah, yeah. You could scout them all
So
day long. Student body right, student body left with all those USC tailbacks. Go ahead,
Yeah.
stop
same
it.
thing. Same
Yeah,
Yeah,
thing.
yeah. But I mean, I think more than anything, this probably just makes for a good talking point for,
I
for
think so.
guys like us.
I think so.
And I do think though that what's that saying, only bad publicity is no publicity, that I think it does draw more eyeballs, I'd say, to Michigan and what they could possibly do in terms of getting to the playoff, maybe winning a national championship. And as
Right,
much as I loathe that team up north as an
right,
Ohio State fan,
right.
that I want to see the best teams in there. And I do think
Yes,
if Ohio State can't make it, if by some chance that they lose to Coach Kaki and that team up north, then I
right,
want to see the Big Ten represented by the best team.
right.
And I do think that that's Michigan. And I'm also a believer that when you have a window to win a championship, you need to maximize it. I don't want to see it taken away because of a technicality or something,
No,
unless it's something just so egregious, which
yes,
again, in my opinion, this does not seem to be egregious.
no. It doesn't seek that level. No, it doesn't reach that level. You're right about that. And I'll tell you a funny story. I did wrote an article one time about when Michigan was beaten by Appalachian State. And I talked to somebody who was covering Ohio State, and he said, yeah, the crowd really cheered loudly, of course. But by the middle of the season, everybody was not happy that Appalachian State beat Michigan because it reflected on the Big Ten. So some people, as we know, they root against their own interest.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And I do think that in this last year of the 14 playoff that you do want to see the best four teams. And if I had to handicap, I would say if Georgia can't win a unprecedented third straight title,
Right.
then then it's probably going to be Michigan if they handle their business. And that's just what it is, a game recognizing game. And
Yes.
and if Coach Kaki is going to leave for the NFL, go out in a blaze of glory and maybe with a
Right.
national championship in hand.
He might. I I don't know why he wouldn't stay at Michigan. I mean, I guess there's some friction with the athletic director, Ward Manuel. I know Ward for a long time, but they had that contract situation where he had to reduce it because there were some things happening. But Jim Harbaugh, I would overlook that. I mean, you got to be a bigger person. Just overlook it. That's your alma mater. But I
Mm-hmm.
guess maybe you've probably heard this. He wants to go back and try to win a Super Bowl. His brother won the Super Bowl against him. So, but these college football playoffs, I can't wait till the next 2 or 3 weeks because there's all types of scenarios. The scenario that I was trying to kind of interested in is if Michigan or Ohio State runs the table, Florida State, Washington, and then Texas, and then you have if Alabama happens to beat Georgia, how are you going to tell Texas that they're not in the playoffs when they beat Alabama in Tuscaloosa by double digits?
Indeed.
I
Yeah.
wouldn't want to tell them.
Yeah. Neither would I. Neither would I. And they're deserving. The thing about Alabama, it's funny you mentioned that watching just the way that they just steamrolled Kentucky and
Yes.
pretty much I think anybody that had anything bad to say about Jalen Milroe in Alabama, needs to stop now. The kid has 10 touchdowns the last 2 games.
Oh yeah.
And yeah, he had plenty of time to throw against Kentucky. I mean, he neither quarterback was sacked, but the thing I was just impressed with him is just how he did his checkdowns, even with the little bit of pressure that he got, that he's making throws now that he wasn't making. And it's just a maturation process. And Alabama is playing its best ball at the time that they need to.
Best football. I tell people all the time, I said, look, when I first saw Jalen Milroe, there were question marks. He gave up the ball last year, some fumbles because he's running around and he's carrying the ball out with the one hand. And he was able to throw the long ball, but he wasn't going through the progressions like he needed to prior to that Kentucky game. But Alabama benched their own quarterback. So I tell people, look, it wasn't me saying he wasn't ready. It was they benched him for the South Florida game. I mean, did not play. That's a coach's decision. Brought in the other 2 quarterbacks. They were not very good that day. Heck, Tyler Buckner didn't even make it to when they scored the touchdown. He took him out when there was a turnover. I'm thinking, wow, you didn't even give him a chance to try to score a touchdown. He only put him in for whatever it was, a quarter and a half, couple of quarters, brought in Ty Simpson. So, but he's been tremendous. Jalen Milroe, the last half a dozen games, he's playing exceptional. The receivers have now supported him, right? They're catching the football for him, which they weren't doing last year and early part of this year. The big line, as big as any NFL line. For whatever reason, they're blocking now. And I always tell people, how can you decide if an offensive line improves? Is it the matchup against the team, or did they improve technique-wise? Only a coach can tell me those things, I believe. Because if a receiver drops the ball the first game and he catches it second, I said, okay, he's learning how to catch the ball. Same with the quarterback when he's throwing the football. He's hitting his receiver. But an offensive line, I really don't know if they improved or was just the matchup against that team.
Well, for that game, they have improved.
Yes, they did. I think they did.
Yeah, I mean, it's like entering that game, they had allowed 37 sacks. Which are tied for last in the SEC.
Yeah,
and Kentucky barely got a hand on them. And Kentucky has actually a pretty decent pass rush and a good secondary, but they just created time for him.
Yeah,
and he extended that one play when he rolled out, waved his receivers, downfield. He had one open and he had one that was trying to get open, hit the underneath guy who tight roped the sideline and went into the end zone. Roydell Williams. And to me, that might have been probably his best play and showed his maturation.
Oh yeah, he's been very, very good these last couple of weeks. But like you said, 37 sacks. Just to give people an idea, Georgia had only 6 times their quarterback had been sacked before the Missouri game. Just to give you an idea of the discrepancy, 37 and 6.
Yeah.
AP, let me ask you this.
Yes.
Out west, Oregon and Washington.
Right.
I think Oregon is the team that's unsung. I think they're starting to hit a good stride. What are your thoughts on that Pac-12?
Yeah, but
you think one of them can make it?
Yeah, I think I would hate to see one of them not make it because they've had very good seasons. Washington's undefeated. They hosted Oregon, beat them by 3 points. And the coach of Oregon made some, let's say, different kind of decisions. Let's put it at that on the 4th down plays, right?
Very good.
Maybe something I wouldn't have done or you wouldn't have done. But no, Bo Nix had 400 yards against USC, another team that can't play defense like LSU. It's like, is LSU the USC of the Southeast and USC is the LSU of the West? Is that what it is?
That's what
LSU is going to be one where they need to score about 40 points every week if they want to win. And if Kelly does not get it right there, he'll be in the same line with Zach Arnett and Jimbo Fisher. He'll be in the same line.
Yes, that's going to be interesting next year. He'll have a different quarterback, and what will happen to that defense? Is it the same old Lincoln Riley, these one-trick ponies? Josh Heupel, they know offense, but when the offense fails, as Tennessee this weekend, 36-7 against Missouri. Do you know? And I didn't even realize this. Tennessee had scored 60-plus points twice in a row against Missouri the last 2 years, and this year they had 7.
Yeah, that was for Missouri. That might have been probably one of the most impressive wins that they've had.
I think so.
I mean, I've seen them enough times this year to see really just not just an improved team, but a team that after years of languishing,
Yes.
I'm trying to think. I think what 2014 was the last year that they had like 8 or more wins, and Elijah Drinkowitz has really done a number with that
Yes.
team. Of course, much like Brian Kelly, we'll see what happens
Right.
when the
The-
running back
the-
Cody Schrader, when he's gone.
yes.
I think he's made a case for, well, maybe for some Heisman consideration.
Yeah.
Because
Some
he's
votes.
got
Yeah.
1,100 yards. He's coming off a 200-yard game,
Yeah.
and he's been probably the best back in the SEC this
He
year.
has.
But
That's a
but
great story. Yeah. Truman State transfer, Division II. Great story.
yeah, and I think, what was it? He had to walk on at
Walk on.
Missouri, of
He
all
sure
of all
did.
things,
Sure did.
which is a great story in and of
Oh yeah.
itself. But
So AP, tell me, tell
Yes.
us, you got to pick the 4 teams for the college football playoffs. Give me 4.
Right.
Give us 4.
Okay. Okay. We'll take Michigan. We'll take Washington. We'll take Florida State. And that fourth one, let's say I go down on a limb and I say Alabama beats Georgia, I'm going to say Texas, and the SEC's left out.
Wow.
ooh,
Really?
ooh.
So that would hold on. Let me make sure I understand this now.
Go ahead.
Alabama beats Georgia. That's
Right.
Georgia's first loss of the season, right?
Right.
First loss in 27 games.
Right.
And then they're done.
Why not? We'll see what happens, right? A lot of football
Yeah,
to be played.
I like it. I like it myself. You got
Yeah.
Coach Kaki in there. That's what's most important to me. So hey, AP, nobody knows it better than you, my friend. Absolutely nobody. Have a great time
Thank
going
you.
out to LA Coliseum. You're covering USC and UCLA. Enjoy yourself. And as always, my friend, nothing but love. And thank you so much for coming on the Daily Deuce.
Hey, back at you, John and Gary. Thank you so much for having me on the Daily Deuce. Really appreciate it.
Man, it's been fun.
Hey,
Loved
take
it.
care, man.
Bye-bye now. Thank you.
All right.
Well, John, that was a wonderful discussion with AP about college football, but let's move up a level to the NFL, where we had one heck of a weekend with exciting finishes. I think at last count, it was 6 games decided by last-second field goals, including the Monday night game with Buffalo and Denver. We can sit here and talk about all the mistakes that Buffalo made in that game to basically give Denver a chance, not just 12 men on the field. But let's talk about Denver. First off, they've won 3 in a row. And remember when we were throwing dirt on the Broncos and Russell Wilson? And here they are now, what is that, 4-5? And really, they're not going to win that division in a sense, but they're not done. And I think we're seeing a different Russell Wilson.
Well, a lot of the credit for me goes to Sean Payton. I think he's a really great coach. It takes a heck of a coach to come back and bring your team back. Remember a few weeks ago, Gary, Miami put 70 points up on them. So
yeah, we were throwing dirt on Payton too.
Yeah, they've come back and they even lost to the Jets, which was big game for other reasons we don't even have to talk about. But I think they beat Kansas City, they beat Buffalo last night. They're playing well. And I think what Peyton has done is found a happy median with what Wilson can still do well and maybe what he can't do well. And one of the things that Peyton's always had, well, he always had Drew Brees, but he always had a strong running game. And I saw some good runs last night.
Yeah, with P.
And that helps you. And that defense is Peyton's always had good defensive teams, and that Denver team is starting to come into its own playing defense. So hats off to him, man.
Yeah, same here. I mean, I was more even if Denver had lost that game, I was still impressed by some of the by the decisions that Russell Wilson made. I was impressed by just the fact that they limited Josh Allen's options, and as you said, that's a Sean Payton trademark. You see a team that is starting to, where his thumbprint is becoming apparent. And I think the problem was we all expected instant improvement, and it's a process. And we're halfway through the season, and you're starting to see the needle move the way that maybe it's supposed to. And again, in any sport, it's not how you start; it's how you finish. And Denver is proving that. And I don't know what to make of Buffalo right now. I guess a game like that, just looking at their schedule, they really have a very narrow path to a playoff berth. I don't think they're going to make it. They've already got 5 losses. You still have another game to play against the Dolphins. I mean, you've got games against the rest of your division that you've got to win. You've been shaky in just about every one, and I think the chances of them not making the playoffs are greater than them making it. If I'm the Miami Dolphins, I'm feeling good, and I'm feeling like after watching last night, this is how you beat them.
Well, Buffalo's 5-5 right now. Things have not been going well for them on offense. Today, they fired the offensive coordinator. Kevin Dorsey got fired, unfortunately. Like I've always said, I don't want to see anybody lose a job. Part of it is they responded a lot better when Dable was there. Dable's not there. You got to get over it. You got to keep moving forward. Diggs, they get it to Diggs, but Diggs is one person, and you can put 2 or 3 people on him, and Josh Allen may not be looking for anybody else. The other thing Josh Allen does, as great as he is, at some times he can become a turnover machine. He throws it at the wrong time. He throws it to the wrong places. Buffalo, I mean, like you said, they still got Miami. I think they still have New England left. They got to play Philadelphia. And I don't know the rest of the schedule. I do know the rest of the schedule is considered one of the roughest in the NFL. I can't think of all the teams on it, but they got a rough way to go.
Yeah. The problem with Buffalo all season, and last night really proved it, is you know that they have the talent, but they just can't get out of their own way. It's one thing if you're the Jets, and of course they can't get out of their own way either, but the thing is they just don't have the same level of talent as a lot of teams in that division. Buffalo has the talent, but they're just not showing it, and I can't figure out where the quality control has gone in that team. Like not even a year ago, they were really one of the sharpest teams in the NFL. And now, again, they can't even get an extra man off the field in a game-winning situations. And I don't know. That's one of those things where you see an accumulation of issues that you're used to seeing in Washington. We're used to seeing in Cleveland up until this year that we didn't expect to see in the Buffalo Bills.
Well, the other thing is you mentioned they can't get a man off the field. They weren't even trying to get a man off the field. Nobody counted, and they had 12 people on the field lined up as 12. Mm-hmm. And really, if you have 11, you win the game because the guy missed the field goal. But,
because I remember, when I saw him miss the field goal, I was like, oh, man, he missed it. And then almost, when they went right to the official and the flag came out, I was like, oh my God. And I already knew what it was before they even said it, because if you look at that sequence when they're changing personnel, it was a flat out jailbreak on both sides of the ball. Difference is Denver knew who they wanted to get on the field and how. Again, this was something Sean Payton already said, this is how we're going to do it. Get out there real quick, maybe catch them off guard or something. And Buffalo just kind of lollygagged, and it cost them. And they've got a lot of soul searching to do over the next 7 games. But John, I want to move on to right now a team that if they played the New York Giants every week, they would be Super Bowl contenders. Even if they don't play the Giants every week, the Dallas Cowboys look like a Super Bowl contender. And I know that I don't know how John Pitt feels about that. We're not going to ask him. We'll talk about that off air. But I really, as bad as the Giants are, I was really impressed with Dak Prescott. And how many conversations have we had about where he ranks among the best quarterbacks? I feel like in a week-to-week league like the NFL, you have to prove yourself. He kept his name in the conversation, not among the best, but as a good quarterback. Hey, I mean,
I'll say this. I'll say this. I'll just say this.
I said a good quarterback.
I'll just say this. They beat the New York Giants. All you can do is beat the teams that are in front of you. That's all you can do. Good win, great. They beat the Giants. You got to beat other teams too besides the Giants, Gary. So I'll give him credit. He won. They won. They beat the JV version of the New York football teams in New York. So they beat the Giants. So, hey, I think they beat the Giants this year. What was it? 86, a composite score of like 86-17.
Yeah.
Something like
that.
Yeah. It's just, I can't, I won't take away from them. Good win. But I gotta see it again.
Yeah, well, I agree, and like I said, week to week in this league, you have to prove how good or prove how bad you are. And this week was a good week for Dak. Looking at the schedule, in 9 days they're going to play the Washington football team on Thanksgiving Day. A game like that. I'll say the Giants game, can't be nothing but a confidence builder. Don't get your head too big over it because, like you said, there's still a lot of football left. But with all the questions, that was a good get healthy game for the Dallas Cowboys and especially for Dak. I mean, it was a get healthy game in a lot of ways. That was almost like a homecoming game for them if it was college football.
Yeah. But I'm trying to look now and see who they have next week. Let's see who they have. Carolina, so they get healthy again. That's good. Then they play the Commanders on Thanksgiving. Then they got Seattle. Then they got Philadelphia. Then they got Buffalo. Then they got Miami. And then they have the Lions and the Commanders again. So, and I need Dallas to continue to move forward because I've said Philadelphia will not win the NFC East. They won't be back-to-back. The last hope I have on that, Gary, right now is the Dallas Cowboys to make sure that doesn't happen. The Commanders did what I was hoping they wouldn't do on Sunday. They came up short against Seattle. Another situation where they had the game. It was looking good. Everything was going right. And the defense, I just don't. At the end of the year, I mean, the crazy thing is, no, they can't win the NFC East. I'll say that now. They cannot win the NFC East. But the even crazier thing, they're still in playoff contention, which is even more crazy. And Sam Howell played well. I saw a lot of good things with him. But they still don't run the ball enough. And the defense has problems. And one of the things that hurt them,
all season long, John.
And one of the things that definitely hurt them early in the game, Forbes was thrown out for targeting for a bad hit. And that was rough. Because the secondary, they don't have a great secondary as is. They need every last one of them to play to even have a chance with the secondary. and I just don't. I don't know. I just don't. I don't understand how you can have a defense, pretty much the same defense is back from last year that was a top 10 defense. And this year they're 29th and 30th in almost every category. I just don't understand. I don't.
Yeah.
And I look at Philadelphia, and I know I said they have a losing streak coming. Still looking for that losing streak. I'm still, thought Washington was going to have a winning streak, but I need Dallas to do what they can so Philadelphia does not win the division. That's what I'll say.
Okay. You don't want Philadelphia to win the division. You can go ahead and admit that. I think Philadelphia wins that division because
I said what I meant.
Okay.
I meant what I said.
Okay.
And Philadelphia, I do not think can win, but the way it's looking right now, the only chance to have that stopped is Dallas.
Yeah. But I don't think Dallas is going to do it. I still think it's Philadelphia's division to lose. You look at it this way, John. Philadelphia hasn't. They've had very few excellent games this year, but yet they still lead the division. They're not the same team as last year, but yet they still lead the division. If you're leading a division, and it's not so much as a bad division. This is a good conference, but again, they haven't played really their best football consistently, but they're still ahead. And I feel like the needle, still goes up for them.
I think it's a good. You said conference. I think it's a good conference. I don't think it's a good division. Dallas and Philadelphia have proven they are the two best in the division, without a doubt. I still am looking at maybe with this tough stretch that Philadelphia has, maybe they fall by the wayside on a couple of them because it's a tough stretch, Gary. For them to get up and play every week with what they have to go against, it's going to be hard. And I think maybe not a 5-game losing streak. I think two or three of them they could possibly lose. We'll see. Yeah. I know it'll be challenging. I will say that Philadelphia is one of the better teams in the NFC. And go back to what I said in the beginning of the season. Philadelphia could lose its division and still be a better team than they were last year. And I still think that Philadelphia, Dallas is one of the better teams. I think San Francisco, when they wake up and play like they're awake, is one of the better teams. Those are the three that Detroit, they're almost there. They pulled out a big win the other day, but I still am not just totally on board with the Detroit Lions as being.
And you probably shouldn't be because, again, for them, it's about small steps. They're an up and coming team, and that's it. You accept this season, they'll probably win a weak division. They should, and you just want to see improvement. And you take that. If you're in Detroit, you're loving it under any circumstance. Quickly, John, as we wrap up, I'll ask you a quick question about two teams: the Baltimore Ravens and the Cincinnati Bengals. Both of those teams lost on last-second field goals. Which team do you see on the rise, or which team going down?
I think they both could go on the rise. Baltimore plays pretty much to their competition. I think Cincinnati's going to find a good, steady role. They play Baltimore this week. Baltimore is one where, and I'll say this, and I'll be one of the few to say this about Baltimore. Everybody has always loved Justin Tucker. Without a doubt, Justin Tucker is one of the best kickers ever. But Justin Tucker has also gotten older. Mm-hmm. And I would venture to say his accuracy is not what it was 2 or 3 years ago. He had a kick blocked the other day. Your kick is blocked because you have low trajectory. Mm-hmm. And he's not as accurate from 50 like he used to be. And I mentioned that because a lot of their offense has always been, if I get to the 45, I can bring Tucker in the game and I can get at least 3 points and my defense can shut it down. Defense is still, for the most part, lights out. They did not do well
Except
against
Sunday,
Cleveland.
I mean,
Yeah,
they gave that game away.
they looked
They gave
terrible
that game to
against
the
Cleveland.
Browns.
They looked terrible. Deshaun Watson played a great game. That's all I can say. He played a absolutely great game. But my point is, they can't, in my mind, you can't say get to the 45 and kick a field goal and my defense a hole, because the field goal is not guaranteed anymore. Yep. And I also think Lamar Jackson is playing well, but he's still learning the offense that the offensive coordinator is running now, that Munchkin is running. It's different from what he is used to. And I said to you earlier, it's going to take time to get on the right path. Cincinnati took a loss on Sunday. I think it was a fluke. I would not be surprised, Gary, if 3 or even 4 of these teams from the AFC North made the playoffs. I would not be surprised, because they are Baltimore, even though they laid an egg Sunday, they're still in first place. Mm-hmm. Pittsburgh, I don't know how Tomlin does it. I don't know how Tomlin does it, but he gets it done, and they're tough. And I don't know how with Pickett at quarterback, but they're just.
I'll tell you what, they're a fun team to follow for the slim margin of error that they have every week, and somehow they maintain it. I mean, somehow they find a way to beat it. But I agree with you in closing that 3 teams could come out of that division. In terms of Cincinnati, because I was flipping between that and the Ravens game, it's a good thing that the Houston Texans are not in that division, because they could win a division just on playing the Bengals, because the biggest problem with the Bengals, as good as that defense was, they could not stop C.J. Stroud and the Texans. It was just a matter of every time. It was just a matter of how they were going to do it. They beat them with the pass down the mid. They passes down the middle. They beat them with runs up the middle. That's an up-and-coming team. Nobody really expected it with C.J. Stroud. He's getting more confident, but I do think it's still Baltimore's division to lose, but I also think that the Cincinnati Bengals will give them a run, because they're playing good ball right now. I think they had a hiccup in that game, defensively, but I think they're starting to hit that stride like they do every year, since Burrow's second or third years, since he came back from the injury. They're finding a way to put it together.
It's just going to be interesting run down the stretch, Gary. It really is. You got some tight races, even over in NFC. You look at Minnesota, you thought it was over for them when Kirk Cousins went out, and Josh Dobbs is coming there, and he looks like the next coming of Fran Tarkenton, so he's getting the job done. So what can you say?
Yeah, he's a great story, just to essentially walk in off the street last Tuesday, or Tuesday before last, and lead them to 2 victories. So we'll be watching him. We'll be watching a lot of sports over the next week. Until next time, folks, watch sports. Watch us on Facebook, YouTube. If you need an email link, just hit us up. Next time, John.
Hey, thanks, Gary. Another fast-moving show. Thanks to our guest, AP Steadham. Love getting the input from him on college football. Yeah, everybody, watch some football, watch some basketball, watch some soccer, watch some hockey. But whatever you do, watch some sports. Take care, and we'll see you.